So in this video, I'm going to go over some problems that are similar to what's in your 4.05 TGA. So in this problem, it asks you to factor this expression completely. Remember, whenever we're factoring, we always want to first check for a GCF. So if we look at these three values, 6, 42, and 72, notice that they can all be divided by 6, right? So we would say that this has a GCF of 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out the 6, and then I'm going to go through this trinomial, and I'm going to divide every single term by 6. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here. So I divide every term by 6. And then I'm going to go ahead and simplify. So that's going to give me 6 times. And then here, notice that 6 and 6 will cancel. So I have just x squared. And then I have minus, well, I have 42 divided by 6, which is going to give me 7. So I have 7x. And then I have plus, well, I have 72 divided by 6, which gives me 12. So now I have this trinomial here, but notice it always tells me to factor completely. So that means I may need more than one factoring step in order to fully simplify these expressions. And if you look at this x squared minus 7x plus 12, you'll notice that we can actually factor it, right? What we're going to do is, remember, we're going to label this A, B, and C. So what we do is we first identify the value of C, right? So in this case, C is equal to 12. Now let's go ahead and list out the factors of 12. The factors of 12 are 1 and 12, and 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to figure out which factor pair is going to give us the -7 that we need, right? Because we need two factors that multiply to 12, but they need to add to -7. Well, notice in this case that my C is positive, right? But my B is negative. Remember, when C is positive, my factors will both have the same sign. And the sign of the factors will match the sign of B. So in this case, we're going to have two negative factors. So I'm going to go ahead and make all these factors negative and see which gives me the correct sum. -1 plus -12 equals -13. -2 plus -6 equals -8. -3 plus -4 equals -7. So that is now the correct pair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this now as 6, because remember, don't forget the GCF in your final answer, and then we have times x minus 3 times x minus 4. So all of this is the fully factored form of this original expression that we have here. So now let's go ahead and try factoring this expression completely. So we want to first check for a GCF, but notice that there is no number that will evenly divide 15, 2, and 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and factor. So remember, this is A, this is B, and this is C. So A times C is what we need to do here, right? Because A is not equal to 1. So we're going to do 15 times -8. And so 15 times -8 is going to give us -120. So now what we need to do is list out the factors of 120. So that's 1 and 120, 2 and 60, 3 and 40, 4 and 30, and then 6 and 20. And I skipped 5, so we have 5 and 24, and then 7, 8, 9, then we have 10 and 12, and those are all the factors of 120. So 120 is negative, so we need a positive factor and a negative factor. Notice here that B is negative, so we're going to make the bigger factor in all of these negative. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add up these factor pairs. And we want to look for which factor pair is going to give us a value of -2. So when I go ahead and add these factors together, well, here I get -119, -58, and this is -37, this is -26, this is -14, and then I have -24 plus 5, so that's -19. And then here we finally have -2. Okay, so 10 and -12 is going to be the correct combination. So remember, what we do now is we're going to use that to split that middle term. So this -2x, we're going to rewrite that as plus 10x minus 12x. That's the reason we found those factor pairs. Now I'm going to go ahead and put these terms into two groups. So I have now 15x squared plus 10x in one group, okay? And then I'm going to put my plus sign in the middle, and then I'm going to put my -12x minus 8 in the second group. So now what I need to do is look at each of these groups and figure out what the GCF is. So let's first look at this first group. We have 15x squared plus 10x. So I can factor out a 5x here, which means I'm going to divide both of these terms by 5x. So when I do that, I'm going to end up getting 5x times 15 over 5 is 3, and then x squared over x is x, and then plus 10 divided by 5 is 2, and then x and x are just going to cancel each other out. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in parentheses, and then I have my plus, and then I'm going to go ahead and work on the next group. If I look at negative 12x and minus 8, so I can factor out a minus 4 from both of these, right? And that's the thing here. Whenever your first term is negative, you go ahead and factor the negative alongside with the factor, okay? So we're just going to pull out the negative 4. So now I have negative 12x divided by negative 4, and then minus 8 divided by negative 4. So that plus negative that I have right here, I'm going to go ahead and combine that and turn this into a minus. So I have minus 4 times negative 12 over negative 4 is 3, and then I have x. And then minus 8 over negative 4 is going to become a plus 2. Okay, so now notice that we have this common binomial factor, right? We have this 3x plus 2. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. So I have 3x plus 2, and then I write parentheses, and then remember I do the terms that are on the outside. So then I have 5x minus 4. Okay, so that is going to be the fully factored form of this expression. So now it asks us to factor completely, and we have 343x to the 12th plus 64. So if you look at your chart of perfect cubes, notice that these are both perfect cubes, okay? Because if we do 7 to the 3rd power, that equals 343. So this is like 7. And then x to the 12th, well, remember, we have to kind of do that power property backwards, right? So we kind of do 12 divided by 3, because to get the power property, remember, we multiply. So when you go backwards, we do 12 divided by 3. So this is like x to the 4th to the 3rd power, right? Because if I multiply those exponents together, I get x to the 12th. So this is like 7x to the 4th cubed plus, and then 64 is 4 cubed. Okay, so notice that this is the sum of cubes. This is basically like saying a cubed plus b cubed. So in this case, a is equal to 7x to the 4th, and b is equal to 4. So what we're going to do now is we're going to plug into that property, right? So a cubed plus b cubed. So remember, that's a plus b. And then it's times. So remember, we can use that SOAP. So the first sign stays the same, right? So that's how we have a plus b. And then we have times a squared. And then the second sign will be opposite. So minus ab and then plus b squared, right? Because the last term is always positive. Okay, so now let's go ahead and plug in. So we have 7x to the 4th, right? Because that's a plus 4. And that's going to be times, well, here we have 7x to the 4th squared minus, and then we have a, so 7x to the 4th times b, so times 4. I'm going to go ahead and erase this here. And then we have plus b squared, so plus 4 squared. So now we just need, so we have 7x to the 4th plus 4, and then times, okay, so 7x to the 4th squared. Remember, first we do 7 squared, so we get 49. And then x to the 4th squared, remember, we need to multiply those exponents together, so we get x to the 8th. And then minus, well, we have 7 times 4, so that's 28. And then we have x to the 4th, and then plus 4 squared, which is 16. So this is now the fully factored form of this expression. So that's all the questions that are on the TGA. If you have any additional questions, please let me know.